2, CJ Stroud. John, you have him at 1. Glad you have him at 2. I am at 4. John, I'll let you start. Tell us why. He's your number 1 quarterback.
So
look at that. He only ran for 100 yards in college. Damn.
He's
more mobile.
Not a lot. So not a lot of yards in college. He's not that's not his game at all. But what I do like about CJ Stroud, there's 2 things. One is the Georgia film. And there's an old sort of scouting adage. If you've seen it once, you can see it again. And so once you put that on film, that's it. Like you now have that in everybody's mind, and especially having it be in the last game of the year, that's an exclamation point. So, a lot of these scouts will go into it and look back at some of the older stuff from CJ Stroud, but he developed so much as a passer. He had an unbelievable talent around him. I get that, but that's not a knock on CJ Stroud. That he's going to go to the NFL and deal with talent at that level as well. So he's going to be throwing to, superstar wide receivers. I'm not worried that he had, probably the greatest wide receiver core of all time with him. But that doesn't bother me because I think he'll be fine in the NFL too. Again, when we get to the top 3, when we start getting into these, elite levels, top 10 picks in the NFL, you have to get a little sort of nitpicky. And, we'll talk about the next guy next. But the reason why I have CJ Stroud number 1 is I don't feel comfortable with the second smallest quarterback in NFL history. I just don't. That's not for me. I would rather take the bet on, less injury risk, size, to me, I just think CJ Stroud is more prototypical franchise quarterback. Again, we don't have to talk about his arm talent. We don't have to talk about his release. We don't talk about any of that. The only knock on him in a production standpoint is the lack of rushing, but we saw in the Georgia game that when he has to do it, he can do it. So I think that is sort of answered those questions for me. He didn't put the stats up, but on film he can run. So I'm assuming that he can run in the NFL.
All right. Gladys, over to you.
I have to second everything he said. Stroud is the most accurate quarterback in this class consistently. He is the pocket passer, and the knock on him was that he doesn't try to run. He looks down, keeps his eye downfield. He tries to pass the ball. But in the Georgia game, when he had to run, he ran. And 71 rushing yards isn't going to knock any walls down, but he did rush for 71 yards, and you did see him run when he had to. So that he is capable of doing it. And I don't know if there's a legitimate knock on him. Besides the rushing, I don't know. I can't think of anything I would say that would be like, oh yeah, he's not good enough. I don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I have him at 4. I don't hate him at 4. I still like him a lot. Obviously, I think he could be a really good NFL quarterback, and I think he will be. But again, there's just some things I just don't like about his game that he almost reminds me of it's too good to be true of who he is. And I feel like when you watch some of the closer things, in terms of under pressure, he has wildly inconsistent under pressure, making his decisions kind of on the later end there. Kind of drifts off in the pocket and kind of moves out quicker than he needs to, which causes defenders to shift pretty quickly on him. Again, I know he can probably run, but the fact that he just never showed it, maybe he'll start running at the NFL. But if you're not running at this point, are you going to be? Is that going to be part of your game? If it's not in college, why would it be part of your game at the NFL level? You're a thrower, so things like that could kind of limit him to me at some extent there, to be honest. I feel like he had a lot of predetermined throws made for him at Ohio State with a really good offense surrounding him. And I want to see what he does when he doesn't have that elite talent around him. Can he still thrive under that situation there? Depends where he goes. There's rumors about him coming outside the top 10 now, kind of a fall like Justin Fields had a couple of years ago. So I mean, if that happens to me, that's telling me that NFL teams don't really truly believe in CJ Stroud as the number one guy. I mean, he was the number one guy for Panthers for a while, and now it's the guy we're going to talk about in a minute. So again, he's good, but there's just some knocks on him that I just don't like. That I feel like it's more of like it's good, but like watch out, something bad could happen. So that's kind of how I feel about CJ Stroud.
You don't like Christmas, do you?
I love Christmas. It's right around my birthday.